Painting a picture depends no less on the body's skeletal and muscular systems than does the performance of karate. Each delicate stroke of the brush requires finely coordinated actions of muscles and bones in the fingers, hand, and wrist. In fact, anything we do involves our muscular and skeletal systems. Even standing still requires the support of bones and muscles to prevent us from falling over. And muscles are constantly working as we breathe and as our hearts beat. For the moment, let's focus on the skeletal system, the body's internal framework of bones. These bones have many shapes and sizes. The largest bones are the two femurs, or thigh bones. For their weight, in fact, the femurs are much stronger than steel. Because they are very strong, the femurs can support our weight, while running or jumping, for example. In contrast to the femurs, the smallest bones in the body are three tiny, delicate bones deep inside the ear. Sound waves cause these bones to vibrate and send signals to the brain. It is this process that enables us to hear many different sounds in the world around us. In the human hand alone, there are 27 different bones. Working together, these bones make it possible to hold and work with a brush, pencil, or tool. Altogether, there are 206 different bones in the body of an adult, but we are born with more. This baby was born with about 300 bones, but some of these bones grow together or fuse. A baby's bones are very soft and flexible because they consist mostly of a material called cartilage. But as a baby grows, hard bone gradually replaces most of this cartilage. In the process, her bones will get larger. Let's take a look at a single bone and see how it changes and grows over time. We'll look at the tibia, or shin bone. Before birth, in the human fetus, most of this bone is cartilage, which we show here in the color blue. Already, however, some hard bone tissue has begun to form in the center of the bone. After birth, as the bone grows, new cartilage is formed and then replaced by hard bone. In this way, the bone gets bigger. This process continues throughout childhood, although it slows somewhat during later childhood. But then it speeds up dramatically in the teenage years, when there is a growth spurt. By the late teens, growth stops. Most cartilage will have been completely replaced by hard bone. Despite the fact that bones grow, this is how we often think of bones, as being hard, brittle, and not alive, like the skeleton of a long-dead animal. But bones are very much a living part of us, just like other tissues of the body, such as those of the skin and heart. And we need the skeletal system to engage in the full range of activities that make up our daily lives. Looking at a thin slice of bone under a microscope, we can see circular layers of hard, bony tissue. These layers consist of minerals, mainly calcium and phosphorus. Embedded between the layers are bone cells. The dark spots in the center of the circles are canals containing blood vessels. Because calcium and phosphorus help build strong bones, it is important to eat foods that contain these minerals, foods like milk. Let's take a look at the structure of a bone, in this case a femur or thigh bone. If you could peel away the outer part of this bone, you'd see that it consists of a hard, tough membrane. When you break a bone, cells from this layer help repair the break. In the shaft of the femur, beneath the outer membrane, there is a layer of hard bone called compact bone. Compact bone gives bones their strength. Extending through the center of the shaft is a cavity. While compact bone makes the femur strong, this cavity makes it light. Inside the cavity there is a soft yellow tissue called yellow marrow. This tissue contains fat that stores energy. If we looked at the ends of a long bone, such as the femur, we'd see a different kind of bony tissue called spongy bone. Spongy bone contains large spaces, like a honeycomb. Inside these spaces, there is another kind of marrow, red marrow. As you will soon see, red marrow has a very important function. The more we learn about the bones of the skeletal system, the more important they seem. The skeletal system serves several functions. For one thing, bones give our bodies shape and support. Our skeletal systems help give us our human form. We look different from an elephant or a bird, in part because of the different shapes of our skeletons. We also look different from each other, partly because of our skeletal systems. We are tall or short or in between because of the size and shape of our bones. Have you ever thought of what we'd look like if it weren't for our skeletons? We'd be like a mass of jelly. We'd have no shape or form, and we'd be unable to stand without the internal support of our bones. A second important function of the skeletal system is that it protects the important internal organs of the body. Consider the brain. The brain coordinates all our conscious and unconscious activities. If the brain were damaged, a person might lose important capabilities. He or she might become blind, be unable to speak, lose the power of memory, or even die. But the brain has some very effective protection: the skull. The skull is like a helmet that surrounds the brain. The top of the skull forms a dome, a shape that is very strong and can withstand heavy blows. Extending from the base of the brain, running down the back, is the spinal cord, an elongated bundle of nerve tissues that branch out and carry messages between the brain and other parts of the body. The spinal cord, too, has very good protection. The skull rests on another part of the skeletal system, the spinal column. The spinal column is made up of 33 bones called vertebrae. Each vertebra has a ring-like shape. Together, these vertebrae form a flexible tube through which the spinal cord passes, protected from possible injury. Attached to the upper vertebrae are 12 pairs of arched bones called ribs. Most of these ribs are joined in the front by cartilage to a shield-like bone called the sternum, or breastbone. The ribs, sternum, and vertebrae together form a kind of cage that protects vital organs in the chest, including the heart and the lungs. A third function of the skeletal system is one that is not readily apparent. But this function is vitally important to the human body. The skeletal system produces blood cells. We saw earlier that inside some bones, particularly the bones of the arms and legs, is soft tissue called red marrow. This tissue manufactures blood cells. One type of blood cell that red marrow produces is red blood cells. Red blood cells carry oxygen from the lungs throughout the body. But these hard-working red blood cells have a lifespan of only about 125 days before they start to break down. However, red marrow manufactures new red blood cells at the rate of 2 million a second, ensuring that our bodies have an adequate supply. The fourth major function of the skeletal system is one that we've already seen. The skeletal system provides a flexible framework to which muscles are attached, allowing the body to move. We may most appreciate the body's flexibility when admiring different types of athletic performance. But even simple tasks depend on the body's being able to move. Bones are connected to each other in ways that allow the skeleton to bend and twist and move in many different ways. Look at the legs of a cyclist. The cyclist can bend his legs because each leg has not one bone, but several bones. Let's look more closely at these bones. The femur, or thigh bone, connects at the knee with two bones called the tibia and fibula, and also with the bone that forms the kneecap. The bones of the leg are held together by tough bands of tissue called ligaments. Ligaments are flexible enough to allow the bones to move. The ends of the bones are also covered with pads of cartilage. The cartilage pads reduce friction between bones and prevent them from grinding each other down. Wherever two bones meet, a joint is formed. To see how some different types of joints work, let's observe some of the different movements a baseball pitcher makes. To grasp the ball, he puts his fingers around it and holds it firmly in his hand. He may turn his head to look over at first base. As he winds up and throws, he bends his arms and legs, hurling the ball toward the batter. None of these actions would be possible without different kinds of joints. The hand, for example, has several kinds of joints. The fingers have joints that allow them to move back and forth. Such joints are called hinge joints because they are like the hinges of a door or gate. The thumb can move freely across the palm of the hand because of a special kind of joint called a saddle joint. The saddle joint gives the thumb great flexibility. Together, hinge and saddle joints make the hand agile at grasping things. Without these joints, we couldn't hold a baseball or write with a pencil. The skull can rotate from side to side because of another kind of joint between the first and second vertebrae. This is known as a pivot joint. This pivot joint allows us to look in different directions without having to turn the whole body. The end of the long bone of the pitcher's arm has a rounded ball-shaped knob that fits into a cup-shaped socket in the shoulder blade. This is called a ball and socket joint. The ball and socket joint allows the arm to move freely in almost any direction. The elbow is another example of a hinge joint. While it allows only back and forth movement, it is more stable and gives us more control. Together, the different joints of the arm help make it possible to throw a ball with accuracy and power. Sometimes bones are joined together in a way that doesn't allow movement. Most of the bones of the skull, for example, are locked firmly together by joints called fixed joints. Such joints make the skull a strong helmet that protects us from injury.